Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting comics loving, art loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I am delighted on this episode to be talking with artist and comics creator Skylar Patridge. Skylar, thank you for jumping in and talking with me for a few minutes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. As is always the case, almost always the case, I mention titles of works at the beginning of these episodes. And so I'll mention a few just lesser known characters like Wonder Woman, Poison Ivy, some of those people, but also Resonant, Specs, Relics of Youth. So a nice wide range of creating in your career so far, if I may say so.
Yeah, I think I've been very fortunate this early on. I feel like I've been here a long time, but at the same time, relative to the industry and how long it kind of can take to get some traction, I haven't been doing this that long. So I've been very
Yeah.
fortunate.
Well, certainly attention-getting art and wonderful approach that we'll talk through. What connected you with comics? How did you know this was the space you wanted to create in?
Um, I think really comics just kind of I had an older brother and I kind of wanted to do everything he did when I was little. And
Hmm.
he collected comics and read comics and watched, X-Men the animated series, the and Batman the animated series. So those were also very like formative media for me growing up. And so I was always kind of drawn to those worlds. And it making art was also just sort of a natural thing that I cannot remember not doing it. I always
Hmm.
had a pencil in my hand from the time I was a very little kid. And so it seemed like the most natural way. I always wanted to tell stories, and it seemed like the easiest way for me because I already drew. So it seemed sort of just natural that I would use that skill to tell stories with it. And so I kind of always drifted in that direction. And I remember in high school, uh, my art teacher was always a little frustrated with me because I always veered into comics art, and he would want me to do various other styles, and I would always veer off into illustration and comics. But wound up working out in my benefit, and I kind of ebbed and flowed, throughout my life, but finally kind of hit my stride, and seems like it's working out, and it's been kind of the direction I think I've always wanted to go, and have kind of found a path at this point. So
Wonderful, wonderful. I love that. Love that story, and love that the path is unfolding as you would like it to. That's wonderful.
yeah, I think so. As you can't really predict how anything's going to unfold. I think creative industries, creative fields can be even a little more unpredictable, but so far it's been good.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as I mentioned, you've created a variety of types of stories from kind of the popular mainstream to the horror and spookier sides of comics. So, any particular experiences or creative challenges that you've had in your career so far that have sort of bubbled to the surface, some of your favorite moments as a creator?
Um, I think being brought on for Resonant was actually a really big highlight.
Hmm.
That kind of fell in my lap and was kind of changed the trajectory, I think, for me as far as making comics and what I was doing, and kind of pushed me a little harder artistically. I think I had been kind of playing it safe prior to that. As far as my style was going, I was kind of uh, not really knowing exactly how I wanted to draw. I kind of was doing a little bit of everything, and not really landing on anything in particular. And Resonant kind of gave me that push because it's such a kinetic world
Hmm.
that DB
Hmm.
has created, DB Andrew has created there. And so I wanted to come in and meet that. I wanted to come in and kind of carry that energy through in that second arc. And so that pushed me, I think, a little bit more artistically to just not be quite so afraid of my line work and just push a little harder. And so I think that was definitely a highlight. And I kind of point to that as when I felt like I got my feet on the ground and kind of ran, that felt like a very important moment. So,
Yeah, awesome,
so
awesome.
thank you, DB.
That's right. That's right. I always like to shout out collaborators and creators, and it's always a tricky thing because when I ask about collaborators, of course, there are 10,000 people that get left out, but
Right.
absolutely, absolutely. So as you're approaching a project, what are some of those considerations, or how would you kind of talk about that approach when you have a script and you're bringing the ideas to life.
Um, how so?
So I guess I'm thinking like, are there particular inspirations there, particular places that you go or processes that you go through or pay attention to from a script?
The big thing for me is always the emotional element of the script. And so if I can, that's usually what I latch onto first when I'm reading through. I read through very quickly the first time around just to kind of get the beats and figure out what the overall vibe of the story is. And then I go back through and kind of figure out where those emotional elements are. And that's, I think, always kind of been where I've taken my work. And a lot of I put a lot of energy into capturing emotions and expressions on faces and trying to nail what the character's feeling, what the story is trying to convey. And so I think that's my number one thing is if I can find the emotional elements in the story, that's usually where I build from.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And it's some sort of magic to me that people like yourself can look at a script and just envision it and bring it to the page the way that you do. So that's part of the reason why I asked that question. So by means of a final official question that's on my list, and then we can talk about anything else in the creative journey that you'd like to. And that question is, where do you connect with readers? Are there particular convention spaces or online spaces? And then what currently has your creative focus that you can talk about?
Um, I'm on most of the social media. I spend usually the most amount of time on Instagram and Twitter. At Sky Patridge are my handles for pretty much everything. So if you're on a new social media and you wonder if I'm there, it's at Sky Patridge. It's most likely where you'll find me. And then skylarpatridge.com is my website, and you can reach out there. I have a contact page there as well that readers can reach out to. And as far as the things I'm working on right now, I'm actually getting ready to launch a Kickstarter with my friend and collaborator, Jordan Alseca.
Uh-huh,
We
uh-huh.
are getting ready to do a Kickstarter called Our Sins Are Scarlet that will launch on February 29th. And it's a story that I've wanted to tell for a really long time. Kind of circling back to high school when I said my teacher was always a little frustrated with me leaning into comics. And when
Hmm.
I hit my senior year and I had sort of a big senior project, and he was like, okay, you're always going into comics. I want you to tell me a comic story. And so that was my senior year project, was trying to come up with the first 5 pages and like an overarching outline for a story that I wanted to tell. And this is the Kickstarter that we're getting ready to launch in February is not the same story, but it's a similar kind of theme and kind of genre that I'm always drawn to,
Hmm.
and it's an espionage thriller, and so it's leaning into um, sort of government intrigue, and there's a lot of kind of eroticism in it, and it's sort of a psychological and espionage thriller that we've been working on for probably, I think we said this is our 6th year trying to bring it to reality.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a long time coming, and we're both really, really excited for it.
Glad to hear that that's culminating. And Jordan was on the show, I
Oh,
want to say
awesome.
late summer. Yeah, yeah. So delighted to hear about that collaboration as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's been, I think, one of the things that is so, it happens a lot in all creative fields, I think, but especially in comics, because you do have to work so closely with people,
Hmm.
um, trying to build those stories. And so that has been, I think, just as a collaborative relationship, but also just a really good friendship. I'm really excited for us to finally get to show people this and see what they think. So,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm.
awesome, awesome. Glad to hear that that is on the way. And of course, I'll share the links that you just shared in the description as well as in the video. And you were nice enough to share some art as well. So I'll make sure that that appears in the video so long as that is okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Anything that we've missed before we close out?
Oh, well, I don't know if I can talk about it.
Oh, okay.
But
Then
I
we
will
won't.
hint at it that I do have kind of an exciting thing coming up in addition to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is definitely my big news that I've been working on for the last several years. But I will also have something I believe that will be announced later in the spring, early summer. That should be pretty exciting through Image Comics. So
Wonderful.
I can't say much more about it than that, but that should be kind of a cool thing that's happening soon.
It's a mysterious hint of something to come. I love that. Love it.
Yes, the vagueness.
Well, I'm also going to give one more shout out to Specs with David Boer because I really enjoyed that as well. And I think David is coming on sometime soon to talk about Ghostbusters. So that was just a really intriguing book visually as well.
Yeah, David's fantastic, and I was thrilled to get a chance to contribute a little bit to that. So both David and Chris Sheehan and Roman Stevens, I believe, colored it. It's just fantastic.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, sending all the appreciation for your work. Looking forward to the collaborations to come. And thank you so much, Skylar. I appreciate the visit.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It's great
My
talking with you.
pleasure. My pleasure. Glad to have you back anytime.
Thank you.